Hi, it's Gwendoline at Lifestylesew. We're going to talk about sewing machines and a few other little bits, but mainly sewing machines. When you're a beginner, what you would need, what's the best sewing machine for you to get? For quilting, for sewing, patchwork, quilting, and really take out that I've got a small machine and somebody's got a big machine. Absolutely rubbish, by the way. Absolutely rubbish. Some of the best quilters in the world only quilt on a tiny little machine. So it's not the size of the sewing machine, it's the quality. Some of those little really cheap £99 machines are pretty good because all you're doing in patchwork is straight stitching. That's all you're doing to start with, is straight stitching. You eventually move up your machine as you get more experience because you want to be more creative. You want to try all different stitches or do things like that. But basically, you only need a cheap machine to start with. You don't need a great big fancy machine because you don't know if you're going to like it or not. You might think we all do it and I'm the worst in the world for doing it. I'm going to love that, and then after a while, well, years passed, I don't really like it all that much. So you have to take that into consideration too. But then on the other side of the coin, you do have to buy a machine that's at your maximum budget. So if you have got £300 to spend on a sewing machine, that's what you need to spend. But if you've only got £100, so you're going to have to shop around, or you can buy second-hand sewing machines to do perfectly good jobs. But with the second-hand machines, they're really, really built well. But they also come with a whole load of tension problems unless you know how to sew properly. So it's well worth, if you are a beginner, to buy a new machine. I really, really stress to buy a new machine unless you already can sew. And on the market now, the new machines that come out, whether it's Janome, Brother, or all of them, Viking, all of them, new machines that come out now are all pretty damn good because they're all competing against each other. So you normally get a good stitch quality. But not all machines are equal. Some of them are very ropey, very clinky, and you think, is this right? Is that noise right? And then it's a bit like a car. You go in a small car and you think, it's a bit canny. And then you go in a big car, that's nice and smooth as it goes along. So it depends what you like as a sewer as well. So all of those things, it's well worth saving up. When I saved up for my 790 plus, I didn't save up for the 790 plus at all. I saved up for the quilting machine, which was 770. That's what I saved up for. But then when I got the money to buy that, I thought, well, will I be happy? What is my real options? What else can I do? I hadn't got a channel then, so I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking purely of myself, my personality and what I like. And I thought, well, I'll buy a machine that it's going to be a one-off purchase. So when I go into retirement, I'll have something really nice that I can, use, and it'll have all the bells and whistles, and that'll do me, that'll last me. Well, we'll see. But that's what the idea was. So the actual machine that I didn't buy, 770, it would have been more than enough for what I needed. It absolutely more than enough, to be honest, to start with. But I do love my 790 plus because it does have more different features, which I like. I am a feature girl and I like that. So I had to save for it. But if you're buying your first machine, I suggest you, if it comes to something, save for that. Just save a little bit extra, another 6 months down the line, to get that machine. Beg, steal and borrow presents, birthday presents, Christmas present, to put it in your machine fund or whatever, just for you to get that one machine. And never mind all the other things, that's your goal. One machine, this is the machine. Decide what you want, because don't flitter from different things. Decide what you want, and that's obviously you go along the line, and then by the time you know, it may be that it's 3 years that it's taken you to buy a sewing machine. In that time, they may have brought out a new, different type of machine that you like. But it's all about the stitch quality, and it's all about, you can buy a 1/4 inch foot. Do you need a 1/4 inch foot? No. But it makes life a lot easier for you. It really does. You can use a machine without a 1/4 inch foot. You can put a little piece of that tape down the side. That's a 1/4 inch, and you can guide it with your eye. But personally, I've got a 97D foot, and it comes with a fabric guide. And yes, I do, even though I'm an experienced sewer, I do put the fabric guide on. Because for me, I like it butting up as it goes along, and I get a perfect 1/4 inch foot, unless you take your eye off the ball. And that happens occasionally too. And if it does happen, then I stop the machine. I go back to where I didn't lose my concentration. Do you know, I know Janome. I've got a Janome. I've got a 600 Merrycraft. That is a brilliant machine. Absolutely brilliant machine. It is a workhorse. It has got a steel case. I think it's got a steel hook too. That is an amazing machine. I've had it 14 years. There's no way I'd get rid of that, because if any time I had to put in my 790 Plus for some unknown reason, well, to have it serviced or whatever, then I still have a backup machine so I can still work. But if you're thinking of buying a sewing machine and you want to do embroidery, now we're talking about a different ball game. A different ball game. You really are going to have to save up. You're not going to get a £300 machine with a decent embroidery hook. It's you're buying the sewing machine, and you have to buy the embroidery to go with it. Not all sewing machines you can add a machine on. I did not know that years ago. I really did not know that at all. So you have to buy an embroidery machine, and sometimes the embroidery machines, like the 790 Plus Benina that I've got, is separate. So you have your sewing machine, and this embroidery machine is separate to it. So you can actually buy an embroidery. You buy this machine first, and you can buy the embroidery machine. The 790 Plus is this machine and the embroidery, or is just 790. The Plus is the embroidery. So you can buy it for it to go together. Now, my Janome, I couldn't understand when, first of all, I thought to myself, I'll buy an embroidery machine for my Janome. Never even thought anything. I thought that was just an accessory that you bought. But no, you had to change the machine to get the embroidery. And also, it's about the size of the hoop. So therefore, you need to buy an embroidery machine that's got the biggest hoop that you can afford, not what everybody else is doing, what you can afford. And there's lots of machines out there that might be going cheaper, like I think it's 4x4 little embroidery area. Well, all that's going to do is just a little patch on your shoulder or something that's going to go in your cuff or the bottom of a dress. It's not going to be big enough if you're thinking about buying. If you've got one, that's great and that's what you're using. But if you're thinking of getting a new machine and you want to upgrade, then you need to save a few more pennies to get something a bit bigger, because the bigger the machine, if you like, the most expensive machines on the market do have the biggest hoops, and that's what opens the world up to you. But you may not be able to afford these thousands and thousands of pounds for these machines, so you have to cut your cloth and get the machine that's best for you. So I strongly advise that set your mind on a machine. If you're doing patchwork, then just go out, make your mind up on a machine. It's not there's not one machine at that level that's really better than another machine. There isn't, regardless of what they're telling you, there isn't. It's only when you start going up that you get more bells and whistles, and the quality can change dramatically. So that's why some people, Benina is renowned for its stitch quality and its embroidery quality. It really is. It's a huge difference in that machine. But the other machines that you can get, I haven't tried those. I haven't tried the other big I wouldn't mind trying the Janome. I think that's a lovely machine. And if I was on the market, because I do like Janome, because Janome come on loads and loads and loads of feet. They're pretty damn good machines. And I probably would be buying that one to have a look at what's going on. Because I really do think that's a really, really good machine. But you don't know until you start using it, until you see what the embroidery's like and all the rest of it. I think Pfaff have brought out a new embroidery machine, which is a little bit different, because the embroidery hoop on that machine is you do half the embroidery, then you turn it round and you do the other half. Well, I would have to see that working. And it's got to be the biggest hoop ever. So, you know, creativity wise, it's a massive. It really is. You can do what you like. That's it on the sewing machines. So just remember, all sewing machines, you know, are going to be roughly the same as entry level into sewing. They roughly are. It's all about whether just some may feel better for you than others. So it's, if go into the shop, have a feel, sit down, have a practice. It doesn't mean to say you've got to buy anything. I went into the shop for a whole year before I ever bought my machine. I talked to a woman for a whole year. Eventually I did buy from her. No, I did buy because she gave the most service to what I needed. And that's the other thing. You need to be, if you buy it online, what's the service going to be like? Then buying it from a local shop. That you do have to think about. Have a look what their prices are online. Have a look what your local shop prices are and go to your local shop if it's the same. Because at least you can go back in there and ask, how do you do this, that and the other. Once your online business, unless they've got a local shop, if they've got a local shop then that's fine. But a lot of the online businesses are just online. So if it's a business that's just online, you're not going to get the same service. Go in, you can't just phone up and say, oh, how do you do this? Can you do that? I mean, maybe some of them do. I've not met one that did it, but maybe somebody's going to correct me. Yeah, this company, that was great. It showed me this, that and the other. That's fantastic. Put it in the comments. And then we can all see that company is great to look at. Because some of the ones that I've phoned up, yeah, what is it? Yeah, do you want this machine? Yeah, well, this is the best machine. Excuse me? No service whatsoever. So busy that they haven't got any customer service, and you know, it's a lot of money for us to part with. So we want a little bit of service, for goodness sake. We want to feel special when you're buying a machine. You're parting with that money. You've taken a long time to save up for that money. I know some people don't. They can't afford to go out and buy it, but I wasn't one of those lucky ones. So, you know, tell me what machines you're looking at to buy. And then when you get to a certain level, once you've done that and you get that machine, you begin a machine, and you're doing all your patchwork and quilting, you will get to a stage where you'll want a bigger machine, because a bigger machine has a bigger throat from the actual needle to the back of the machine. When I say throat of the machine, this is what I mean. So from this area all the way here is your throat of the machine. So you would put your quilt in to sew it, and then you would wrap round. You'd fold over your quilt into a tight ball, if you like, under here. So for a large quilt, you need to do that, and then you would turn your quilt completely round and start on the other side. But if you've got a tiny machine, you can't do proper big quilting like this. So you would have to then start upgrading your machine. But for little machines, small machines, you could make placemats and things like that, so you can quilt on it, but it's small quilting projects that you'd be making rather than large quilting projects, and that's why you would upgrade your sewing machine. And can you quilt it on a smaller machine? No, you can only do little things. Can you quilt on a bigger machine? Yes, Can I quilt on my Memory Craft 600? Yes, I can. That's got a big enough throat to do that. That was like, I think they're 1200, 1250 now to buy. But yes, you can quilt on that too. That's fine. I have done. So it's the width of the throat that you need to buy or have a look at to make sure your quilt is gonna wrap round. So you might be a beginner, but you may think about, I'm a beginner, but I want to quilt big quilts. Unless you're going out buying a long arm or sit down little long arm or something like that, your sewing machine has to accommodate you. So you have to sit down and write all the things that you want out of a sewing machine, and then decide where you're going to have a look. Take care. See you soon.